Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Lakeside's 2025 Vacation Bible School. It is my privilege tonight to introduce to you two men who are very familiar with this crowd. If you remember last year, DJ and Chris had become jungle explorers. They had spent a lot of time in the wild, and it showed, and it smelled. And after their time in the wild, if you remember last year, they left us. While they were gone over the past year, they have gone to astronaut school. They have now become captains of their own space shuttle. And along with that, have had many space adventures. Boys and girls, tonight, I present to you Captain DJ and Captain Chris.
A lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed. When I saw you last, I was a little bit immature. Astronaut Chris was a little bit immature. But over the past year, both of us went to the moon. That's not funny. We both have our own plans, our endeavors. I just got back from the planet Saturn. Astronaut Chris is about to go to the planet Venus. And so today, what we want to do is we want to give him the proper send-off. And when I say that we have matured, we take things serious, we don't expect any laughing. We don't expect many smiles that I see right now. We need to wipe those smiles off of our face. And we want to give Astronaut Chris his proper respect. So let's have, as we're giving him a fond farewell, he is all in his gear. He is ready to go. He has promised me that he is prepped and ready to head to that great planet, Venus. Let's bring Sirius. Venus!
I'm locked in, DJ. Venus!
Whoa, okay, so you're telling me you're getting ready tonight when this is over, you're going to Venus dressed like that.
Venus! I'm locked in, man. I'm so ready.
You are not prepared.
Way further than Saturn. I'm out there.
You are not prepared, my friend. All right, so here's what I need you to think about. I need you to help me think about he can't go like this. So I need some ideas from you. We're going to sing a song, and after that song, I need you to give me some ideas how we can prepare him for this. I can tell you, having gone to Saturn, he's not ready. But let's go ahead and sing a song since we're all here together. Blue Skies and Rainbows, y'all know that song? All right, we're going to sing that song, and I want you to try to think of what maybe we can do to help him out. Blue skies and rainbows. Somebody tell me. I saw a hand up here. How do we need to help him out? Oh, he needs a helmet. I like that idea. Somebody else have an idea? What you got? A spacesuit. You want to help me? Come on. Bring a friend. I have an idea. No, not mine. Get out of here. Sorry. He needs a spacesuit. So here's what we're going to do. I think we can get him looking like me. If I give y'all both of these, can you wrap his arms to go ahead and get him ready? All right. Let's see. All right, one for you. You've got this arm. Wrap his arms. Make sure that he's all set. All right, let's see. You got the other arm. Make sure he's all set. All right, that's a good start. He's got very skinny arms. It should be very easy. Yes, I love it. All right, y'all go have a seat. All right, I need somebody else that can help me. Somebody else. Come on, guys, both of y'all, come here. We had two ladies, we're getting two guys. All right, we need, I'm going to tell you, having been out of space, Like you need something like right around this area. Right around this area. All right, so y'all going to have to work together.
It's skinny too.
It is also, yes, yeah. All right, so y'all work together. Get that around his waist. That'll protect him from the rays. Like somehow you got to make it stay. Can y'all make it stay back there? Nope. Here, do you need here? Somehow get it all to work together. Work it together. All right, I need 2 more, and then I think we'll have him set. All right, we'll go. We'll go 1 and 1 right here. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. Do the same thing.
All right. Yeah, you're looking better. All right, so now we just need his legs down there. All right, let's see. All right, we're about to have him ready. You take 1 leg. You take 1 leg. All right, y'all make sure he's all set. Yeah, he's looking good. All right, you can go have a seat. What? There. Okay. Oh yes, we're getting there. I have a couple of ideas more, but we'll get there. All right, everybody, stand up. Stand up. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fight with the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fight with the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. Right. I will tell you one more thing as we talk about the space and the oceans and the earth that God has created. Something you don't know about being in outer space. I'm assuming nobody's been there before. Saturn is it's a different place. Venus, I don't want to make him feel bad. I've been there already. And so there's some things that he does not know that we want to prepare him for. There are these, like, anybody ever been bitten by a mosquito before? Okay, so there are these things in Venus. There are Venus flies, all right? Some people trap them, all right, and with these things called Venus fly traps. So what I realize is really these flies, that they can really hurt if they sting you. They don't like the color purple. And so one thing that my good friend astronaut Chris does not know about yet, I might need an older person to help me. Maybe somebody from back here. Look, I'm going to need an art. Kinsey, everybody's pointing at you. Come on. I have an idea. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, person. So, no. We don't need that. So, what this is Venus fly purple paint. And if you wear it on your face, then the flies will not bother you. And so I think my friend Chris might have known about this, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that his face is very prepared. Can you help me with that? Okay. Okay, so there's your no, I want you to take the brush. This is the Venus brush, all right? Go ahead. I'll hold this for you. Dip it in there. I'm going to tell you, it is all, don't worry, it is very washable, only on carpet. Everything is fair game. Everything is fair game. Yeah. I hear they like to get the nose really good, but we can't see it. Get a little bit more. Let's make sure we get him. There you go. Okay, there you go. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, it's not just the ears. Sometimes they like to get inside the ears. Inside the ears. Yeah. Then get a little bit more. Get the other side. Make sure you get the other side. Yep. Other side. In. Yeah, there you go. The chin. All right. Is there anywhere else that we need? Mustache. Yes. Get us fresh. Get some fresh. We don't want you to be running out. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry, man. But look, this is for you. Sometimes they bite the lips. Sometimes. Every once in a while. I just care about my friend. Yeah. Thank you, Kinsey. You did an amazing job. I appreciate all of your help. Okay. Nope, I've got a little thing here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, so now I feel like he is, there's going to be purple on that. I think he's much better now. Here's what you do, what you might also not know is you're going to go and learn much more about, obviously, God's creation, but as we have explored it, right up here, you might not know much, but we have our doctorate in astronomy, yes. And so this spot right here, I was talking to Mr. Dale Pratt. And if you look between these two spots right here, this area right here is what they call the booster. The booster. Which reminds me of a song. So we're going to sing a song before we go to class. What do you think? All right, everybody stand up. And I do not want to hear anybody say rooster. I want to hear you crow like a rooster as loud as possible. So we'll try one time. But the first time it's just going to be the adults are going to crow like a rooster. So all of the kids turn around, face the adult that you think will not crow like a rooster. You look at the person you think will not crow like a rooster. All right. 3, 2, 1, go! I just want to hear the adults, and that was terrible, so we're going to try again. Ready? Just the adults, just the sound of a rooster. 3, 2, 1, go! That was pretty good. I see a couple that didn't, but I'll let you go. All right, we're going to sing the song. We'll get ready to go to class. All right.
We're going for so early. I know. It's going to be a lot.
Okay. Booster, booster, be a booster. Don't be bouncing like a booster. Be a booster and booster Bible school. We're going to, you can have a seat back. We're going to dismiss you in order, so we're going to start with the youngest first, and then we will be back here, and you can examine astronaut Chris, make sure he's good. So the youngest, come on out.
Appreciate y'all being here tonight. I said I was going to do this before. I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to let y'all stay over there, even though some of y'all are hiding. I know you are, right? Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. Every now and then I'm going to walk around, make sure everybody's still awake. All right, so we're kicking off our VBS tonight. As you can see, off to a good start. I think the kids enjoyed it. Dustin and Chris always do a good job, and there'll be more of that this week as we go along. Amanda and company, if I try to name everybody, I'm going to fall short, I know, but they do an amazing job with decorating, not just in here, but if you have a chance to go throughout the building, the fellowship hall, out here in the foyer, downstairs, the classrooms, pretty amazing stuff that they do, and so really a lot of hard work goes into that, and so I'm appreciative of what they do. And so if you get a chance this week, try to go check everything out. It's really neat. If you wait till Wednesday night at the end, they'll probably, as soon as it's all said and done, start tearing stuff down. You know how it is. It takes you a while to get it all built up, but once it's time to tear it down, it doesn't take no time at all. So if you want to see it this week, obviously do that. I encourage you to do that, and a lot of hard work going into that. So I mentioned this morning that we have basically 4 different classes this week. 4 different subjects that we're going to be looking at, but it all sort of deals with God's creation, right? Because that's what we want to look at. That's what we want to appreciate together as we study this week. We're going to be looking at, tonight, we're going to be looking at and thinking about the human body as God's created us and just how amazing of a creation that is. Other subjects this week, going to be looking at the oceans and the water. I think that'll be Wednesday night. I think Tuesday night is going to be animals. And Tuesday night, we're going to have Ryan Smallwood with us. Ryan is the associate minister over at the Lake City congregation. A lot of our kids that go to camp and stuff, they know Ryan from camp. He goes to camp with us every year. Ryan and his family. Ryan will be here with us on Tuesday night, and he'll be talking about animals. And then tomorrow night, I guess that leaves us with space. And I think Frank Hill will be teaching our class in here on outer space. And so we look forward to him dressing in an astronaut costume, right? Yeah, okay. Just an idea, we got tinfoil up here. We'll have a lot of great lessons this week and exploring a lot of cool things. So tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at the human body. And I want to do some different things in this class. I want us to kind of think, and really what I want us to do is really to be able to appreciate not only what God has done, but I always think about, when I think about God's creation, I always think in terms of what we would call Christian apologetics, or basically, the defense that God is real. And obviously, one of the ways in which we defend God and the fact that God is real is we look at creation, right? And we look at how amazing creation is, and we look at all that God has done, and we say, could this have possibly happened just through some kind of explosion, right? I mean, again, what are the chances and what are the odds that this just happened had to work just right this way, and then this over here had to work just right over here, and then this had to take place, and all these things just happened to have to work in just the right way for all that to take place and to come together. And of course, we know it's statistically it's impossible, right? So we understand that, but we also understand some very simple concepts, okay? Such as in Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 4, where the Bible tells us that every house or every building was created by someone. You and I understand that, right? That's a simple concept. Even somebody who says, well, I don't believe in God, but you can talk about houses and, hey, who built your house? Oh, well, my house was built by, D.R. Horton, or, my house was built by Pulte, or my house was built by, this guy I know and he's a contractor, right? Nobody is going to tell you, if you drive down the street and any neighborhood that's being built and there's always scrap pieces here and there and all that, right? Yeah, there was an explosion the other night. There was a little gas leak, and it blew up, and the next thing you know, we wake up the next morning, and there's a house. Look at that. Plumbing, everything, AC, all that, wiring, electrical, That's essentially what people said have happened with, well, you and I, right? The human body. That all this took place, or all this came about because of an explosion, right? And we would understand that's absurd. We understand the concept that if something is made, we understand that there was a creator, right? I wear a watch, and it's made by Apple. People at Apple are really smart, and they can make a lot of cool things, right? The phone that I have in my pocket, the computer that I use for work, the watch that I wear on my wrist, all of those things, right? No one would say, well, I don't know, this just probably, some things, fell down, and they all sort of stuck together, and, maybe there was a magnet in there, and it just kind of, I don't know, it just, we all know that was made by somebody, right? So here's what I want to do tonight. I want to begin, and as we begin tonight, I want to throw out some verses. I want you to help me by help me reading those verses that talk about the idea of our creation, our body being created. I want to look at how God uses or refers to the human body in Scripture, right? Because He uses that as an example for a lot of different things, okay? And then I want us to think about just how unique and amazing our body is. I want to give you some facts and some things about the human body that you probably know, or maybe you don't know. And then we're going to do a little exercise where I'm going to get you all to kind of clump together, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to let you use your phones and Google it, right? But I'll give you a little assignment. We'll take a few minutes to do that. And I think that'll help us to get to where we want to get to by the end of this lesson, and that is appreciating what God has done for us, okay? So I'm gonna call out these verses, and if I can get some folks that are willing to read these as we go along. Most of these are shorter, a couple verses, one verse. There's one that's about 5 verses, but other than that, they're all fairly short. If someone wouldn't mind, and you could probably quote this one, but Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and then following that, Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 31. So that would be the last few verses of the chapter there. Genesis chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Job chapter 33 and verse 4. Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14. Isaiah 44, 24. Psalm 100, verse 3, and Psalm 95 and verse 6. Y'all got my... Okay, so if you would, let's do this. And I maybe should have done this from the beginning, but we've got some microphones, and we're kind of split here, so... if you would raise your hand if you're going to read this verse, and that'll help us out. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. I got a hand right here if you want to go ahead to Jason and let him read that for us.
Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay. We're all familiar with this, right? But in the beginning, right, how did the world begin, right? That's what people want to know. The Bible gives us the answer. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? Again, that goes back to what I mentioned in the devotional period. You know, when Paul goes into Athens, and it was very common during that time, no matter what city you were in, polytheism, right? That was a big thing. In other words, you know, recognizing or worshiping all these different gods. You know, there's a God for this and a God for that, and it would get kind of confusing, I would imagine, right? You know, at times, or maybe be exhausting having to go and try to recognize all these different gods depending on what your need is and all of that, right? It's kind of like our system of doctors, right? You know, oh, you need to go see a gastroenterologist. You know, is that what they're called? You know, you got to go see this doctor. You know, and so all these. Wouldn't it be great? You just have one doctor who says it doesn't matter what you got. I know it, and I can take care of it, right? Oh, that's general practitioner. Okay, yeah. But that's kind of the idea, right? All these different gods. And yet, here's Paul, and he says, let me tell you about the God that you don't seem to know about. And that's the God that replaces all these other gods. He's the God that created everything. And so Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1 establishes that fact for us. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Everything that we see, all this thing that we think about and we imagine, that we look up in the sky and we see everything we behold around us in creation, right? Who can read for me Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 31? I got a hand and somebody can. All right, over here with the microphone.
Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
All right. So notice how, as you roll through Genesis 1, as you roll through creation, you have God and all these different days creating all these different things. But then when you get down to verse 26, here's God creating mankind. And there's something very special about how God created us. You know, God didn't just say, okay, I'm going to throw a man out here and, you know. I mean, there was thought in what God did. There was purpose in God's creation of you and I. And I think we need to appreciate that. One of the things I think that's so wonderful about that is that God said, let's make man in our image, right? Let's make man special. There's going to be something special about man. And one of those special things about you and I is that we were made in the image of God. And then you think about all the things that God gave man dominion over as he created all the other things and says, okay, man, you're going to have dominion over all of these things, right? But then you notice at the very end, after God had created all these other things, it says that it was good, and it was good, and it was good. But then when God creates mankind, it says that God looked upon everything, and it was very good. And so you and I were specially made. There was thought put into how God was going to create us and what man was going to be like. And I think as we get into the lessons more, we'll be able to appreciate that even more. If somebody could read Genesis chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Got a hand over here. He's coming to you.
When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them. And he named them mankind when they were created. All
right. You know, it's kind of a repeat, a little bit of what we just saw, but you notice how it talks about how he blessed them, right? Okay? And you think about that terminology, and you know, we are blessed by God. That God has especially blessed mankind. And I think we see that in part in how we were created and how our bodies are and the things that we're able to do in this life. Job 33 and verse 4. Who can read that for me? Job 33 and verse 4. I'll say, even if you're not there, if you raise your hand by the time the microphone gets there, you'll probably, all right, Brother Tom, right over here. Job 33 and verse 4.
The Spirit of God
You're right. Oh, yeah.
Am I, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life.
All right. Not only has God made me, but notice he says there, the breath of the Almighty gives me life. So we're talking about not just God creating us, but God sustaining us in this life as well. And I think we need to appreciate that about how God has created our bodies and how He sustains us, right? Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14. Who can do that for me? Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14.
For you formed my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well.
All right, thank you, Miss Angela. So you think about, you created my innermost parts. Sometimes we only kind of deal with what we see, right? I mean, if you got a bruise or you hurt yourself and something's swelling up, right? You take care of that. But then there's things that happen on the inside. We don't know a lot about on the inside, right? We just know something hurts, right? There's a pain there, and so we try to deal with it. We go to doctors and specialists and all that. But you think about how the inner parts of our body works, things like the digestive system and how blood gets throughout our body and things like that we don't see on a daily basis. And so therefore we probably don't appreciate it like we should. But here the psalmist is talking about this and says, he talks about God creating our innermost parts, right? Weaving us in our mother's womb. From the very beginning, God forming us and creating us, right? And then I love how he talks about there how He is fearfully and wonderfully made. And you think about just the amazement of life. And here's the thing. When this was written originally, there wasn't near the knowledge about how the human body worked like we have now, right? I mean, you think about just how much information we have now, how much more we know. Think about all the imaging we have. You can go somewhere, and if you need an X-ray or an MRI, I just want to say hey to those people over there. You get that, and you can actually see it, and it's. I've had a few of those in my day, and it's funny because they'll throw the image up on the screen, and they'll say, well, this right here is your ligament. And I'm like, how do you know that? It's a shadow. What are you talking about? But they know this stuff, right? They see all of that. They can understand it. And they see something that you and I see, but we don't know what it is. And they say, yeah, this right here is telling me that you've got this issue or this problem. And it's amazing that they can do all that. They know all of that, right? Or that you and I can have surgery, that someone can go in and they can fix what's wrong on the inside, right? And it's just amazing when you think about it. But again, we don't always appreciate those things. But think about how much more we know than was known at the time of this writing. And yet still, without all the knowledge that even we have today, the psalmist can say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay? The appreciation of God's creation when it comes to our human bodies. Isaiah 44 and verse 24. Can somebody do that for me? Take your hand like this. Or like this. Oh, there's good. Thank you, Brandon.
Thus says the Lord, ye Redeemer, and He who formed you from the womb. I am the Lord who makes all things, who stretches out the heavens all alone, who spreads abroad the earth by myself.
All right, the one who formed you in the womb. I am the maker of all things. Again, God is our creator. He is our maker, right? I'll get the next one, and then somebody can get Psalm 95:6. Psalm 103. Know that the Lord Himself is God. It is He who has made us, and not we ourselves. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. It's almost as if sometimes there are individuals who would rather think that they have made themselves, who would feel better about things if they could say, well, I did all of this. This is because of me, right? No, the Bible says it's because of God. He is the one that has made us, not we ourselves. We weren't formed by ourselves or apart from God. We were not made. And so I think we can appreciate that. And then Psalm 95 and verse 6. If somebody will read that. I think we got two hands over here, but whichever one you can get to there.
Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker.
All right. God, our Maker, right? So again, when we think about this body, this human body, we need to understand first and foremost that God is the creator of what we have here. There was not, an evolutionary process, again, that happened from an original explosion, and then everything just kind of kept going and going, and then millions and millions of years later, well, here we are. There was none of that. It was, God, again, with His plan, with His wisdom, with His design, He created us. He made us, and everything that we have within us. And by the way, when you get down to it, when there are people who study, again, doctors and scientists and other things, that study the parts of the body that there's no way, even on our best day, that we could replicate what God has made. We try to do that, right? You've seen individuals who maybe have lost a limb, maybe they've lost an arm or a leg or something along those lines, and so we've made prosthesis, right? We've tried to make prosthetic limbs, okay? But at best, right, they're not exactly what the human arm or the human leg is, right? I mean, there are certain things they can do, but there's also limitations, isn't there? And so we understand that, right? We get that even on our best day, even with all of our technology and all the things that we do, if we try to recreate what God Himself, our Creator and our Maker, has already made, we fall well short. There's no way that we could ever do what God has done. And so we need to appreciate that about Him. Here's something that I also think that I want to kind of point out, is when you go through the Bible, you will find that God actually uses our body parts, and He kind of uses those as He talks about things that sometimes it's literal, sometimes sort of metaphorical, but you think about how God even refers to that which He has created and made. For example, our feet. There's verses that talk about our feet, right? For example, in Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 18, the Bible refers to feet which are swift to run to evil, right? Again, there's this idea of, and it's kind of almost in a personified way, but it's like, okay, we get the idea, we get the point, right? Because we're talking about a human part that we have, that we know, and we know how it works. But the idea is that someone is quick to do evil, right? But he uses the feet to kind of describe that. Or you kind of get the opposite of that in Romans chapter 10 and verse 15, where the Bible talks about how beautiful are the feet of those that preach the gospel, right? Now, that doesn't mean that if you're a preacher, you have immaculate feet, that you should probably quit and go do foot modeling because you have, no. But the idea is there, right? And the idea of being beautiful is the fact that, it's a beautiful thing when somebody carries the gospel, right? And takes the gospel to someone. That's the idea of what God is talking about. We think about, passages that talk about the mouth. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 6. It's almost kind of, I guess, I say humorous in a way, but in Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 6, when the Bible talks about the mouth there, it says, "A fool's lips bring strife, and his mouth invites beatings." Maybe you've known people like that. I guess I shouldn't laugh, but you ever known somebody whose mouth invites beatings? In other words, they just keep on talking, and people just want, you keep talking, and you're going to invite a beating to yourself. But that's kind of the idea, right? Or we think about the tongue, right? What does James say about the tongue? In James chapter 3 and verse 6, he talks a lot about the tongue, this little part, right? But he uses it, and he kind of uses some other things to kind of describe. For example, he talks about how you've got this great big ship, this great big boat that is out there, and it's floating in maybe the ocean, or it's going down a river. And how does that pilot steer that boat? There's this little rudder there. It just kind of turns one way or the other, and it makes that boat go right, go left, And so it's talking about the idea of how there's this little small part that makes this giant boat turn. Or maybe it talks about a horse, where there's a horse, and you put that little bit in the horse's mouth, and you can pull one way or the other, and you can make that horse go whatever direction you want it to go. And it uses that comparison when it talks about the tongue. And That tongue may be a small part or a small member of what God has created, but there's a lot of power in the tongue, is the idea there in James chapter 3, right? Or we think about the ears, in Matthew 11, verse 15. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. So we consider that. Or, the Bible talks about hair, doesn't it? Right? What does the Bible say about hair? Anybody remember anything the Bible says about hair? Okay, He knows the number of hairs upon our head, right? That's one of the things it says about the hair. Matthew chapter 10, verse 30. Okay? Proverbs talks about gray hair. Wisdom, right? There's a connection there, right? It's an honor, okay? We sometimes in our society, somebody starts to get a little bit of gray hair, and look at you getting up there, aren't you, Well, it's an honorable thing. That's what the Bible says, I feel pretty good right here, not so much here, maybe here. So the Bible talks about hair, doesn't it? And then you've got passages like 1 Corinthians chapter 12, where there Paul takes the entire human body, and he compares it to the body of Christ, and he says, we're members of the body, right? But we're members individually, but we're all part of one body. So some are the hands, some are the feet, some are the ears, some are the eyes. We all have different roles, different aspects of things that we do, but we all work together. We're all part of one unit, and we're all working together for a common goal, aren't we? And so the idea there of what Paul uses in the description that he gives there, talking about the human body. I want to read this to you. It's not anything I wrote. And you'll hear, when you hear it and how smart it is, you'll say, yeah, that's definitely not anything you wrote. It comes from a matter of fact, which is one of the Apologetics Press books that kind of talks about the human body and a couple of different things. I want to read, there's one that talks about the brain, okay, and there's one that talks about the heart. But I want you to appreciate, and this is, again, think about how when God created us and made us. Now, you and I, we take this for granted. We don't think about this. But I want you to appreciate what's said about this. Now, the brain weighs about 3 pounds. Of course, it's almost like a computer, isn't it? But notice what he says. Okay, so the brain is composed of over 10 trillion different cells. I don't know who counted them, but somebody did. And there's over 10 trillion, okay? These cells work together to send electrical impulses, now watch this, at the rate of 273 miles per hour. Think about that. 273 miles per hour. That's what you do when you're late for church. 393 feet per second. That's amazing. That's how fast your brain sends an impulse to some part of your body. Now, again, if we were talking about feet, right? 393 feet per second or 273 miles an hour. But when we're talking about going a matter of inches, you think about how quickly that happens, right? Nerve cells in the body send 2,000 impulses to the brain every second. So your brain is taking in 2,000 impulses per second. Think about that. And it's computing all of that. So it's got a lot coming at it, right? It's sending a lot out pretty fast, but it's got a lot coming at it. These impulses come from 130,000 light receptors in the eye, 100,000 hearing receptors in the ears, 3,000 taste buds, and over 500,000 touch spots. In other words, something touches some part of your body and you right? You ever walk and maybe you're barefoot and you step on something and you immediately know like something's right. And you think about how quick you react to that, right? Again, all over. As this is happening, the brain does not move. Yet it consumes over 25% of the body's oxygen and receives 20% of all the blood that is pumped from the heart, which is pretty amazing considering the brain makes up only about 2% of the body weight of an average man. If all of these brainy activities don't impress you, consider that the brain serves as the doctor for the rest of the body. Now, this is what's cool to me, okay? It produces more than 50 drugs. I know we're not supposed to do drugs. But your body, now think about this. This is what's cool. God created your body so that it has certain drugs that are natural to it, that if there's something going on, it sends it, right? You think about Think about how long it takes to go to a doctor and get a prescription filled and all that, right? Okay? Your brain works at a way quicker pace. But appreciate this. It produces more than 50 drugs ranging from painkillers like endorphin to antidepressant drugs like serotonin. In addition, the brain allows you to remember words, smells, pictures, and colors. In fact, the brain is so good at allowing a person to remember information. Now watch this. It would take 500 sets of encyclopedias to hold the information found in the brain. Can you believe that? Now, younger kids wouldn't appreciate the sets of encyclopedias, right? But everybody that's about my age and older would appreciate what a set of encyclopedias was and what we think about, right? But that's how much information your brain holds. Have you ever had something that has happened to you in your life and you don't think about it? Maybe it just didn't stand out for some reason. But you heard a song, or you smelled a certain smell, or there was something that triggered that memory in your brain. And all of a sudden, something from when you were 8 years old that you hadn't thought about in 40 years, all of a sudden, boom, comes right back to the forefront of your mind. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever had that happen to you? How amazing that is. The fact that it's almost like you think about, I think about my brain as like a file cabinet, and it's like all of a sudden somebody grabs and opens that file cabinet and goes all the way to the back and pulls out some file from the very back. Go, remember this? Well, I follow, for example, on Instagram, I follow some 80s accounts, right? Because I'm a child of the 80s. And they'll show like things from the 80s, like whether it's commercials or you remember this show or you remember this toy or you remember this Smurfs tray that they used to have back in the day. And I mean, I'll see that stuff and I'll go, yeah, we had that. We had that, right? But I've forgotten all about that. But it's somewhere in here, okay? Somewhere in here. But there's something that jogs that memory, okay? It's amazing when you think about how God has created our brains and how much capacity we have. And it's been said, I don't know how they know this or how they've found this out, and I don't even know what the percentage is, but they say we only use like percent of our brain. Like is it 20% of our brain, 10% of our brain? I don't know. But it's not anywhere near the full level of what we could use with our brains, right? But you think about just how amazing the brain is, what God has created. And again, we don't always appreciate these things until we hear it articulated, right? Or we think about it in these terms, and then we think, wow. Now you tell me that all that happened by chance. You tell me that there was some kind of explosion and some kind of atoms came together and then this evolution and that, and it formed this, and then a couple million years later there's this, and then, no. God created that. And He knew exactly what He was doing when He created that. And by the way, that those 50 drugs that your body produces and then sends out when you need it, isn't that amazing to think that God said, you know what? There's going to be times where the body's going to need this, and I'm going to put it in there, and it's going to release when it's needed on its own. You can't go to your brain and say, all right, brain, give me some serotonin right now. I mean, maybe you can. I can't. I'll try it later, but I don't think you can do that, right? It's amazing to think that God has created our bodies to where when there is a need, it happens. Or think about how your body is made to heal itself. You ever thought about that? We don't think much about it. We get a paper cut, a little scratch, something like that. But your body has a process in which it will heal itself, right? Okay? And it's pretty amazing to think about that. I've had some injuries because I'm a dummy and I've played sports and kind of played them carelessly at times. One of the things I did when I think it was in 1999, I was in college and I tore my ACL playing football. The doctor kind of described to me the process. He said, well, your ACL is completely torn. And he said, what we're going to do is we're going to use a cadaver ligament. We're going to kind of put it in there. And he said, basically, it's like two ends of a mop, like two mop ends. It's like shredded, And he said, unless they're touching, they're not going to grow back together. So he says, what happens is we run this ligament through there, and it just kind of grows around that ligament, and then it heals itself. It grows back together, right? So in other words, the doctors knew what needed to be done. And sure enough, they did the surgery, and I was asleep, so I don't know what happened, but I woke up, and I went through all the rehab, and I've never had a problem with it since that day. It's amazing to think about. You know, you break a bone, it will heal. Now, you want it to set right, but it'll heal, right? It'll heal itself. It's amazing how the human body can do that, right? Let's move. I want to also, because he talks about the heart too, okay? Appreciate the heart. Inside your body, there's about, and this is amazing to think about, there's about 80,000 miles. Think about that. 80,000 miles of arteries, blood vessels, veins, and capillaries, which make up a network that's longer than any single railroad system in the United States. Your heart, an organ about the size of a man's clenched fist, works hard every day to make sure the proper amount of blood is distributed throughout the body. About 5 quarts of blood are pumping through the heart every minute. That's about 7,200 quarts every day. Yet for all the pumping your heart does, it rests about 6 hours each day. You know that? Just stops. Just kidding. I don't know how it does. I guess between beats, I don't know how you figure that. If you live to be 60, your heart will have rested almost 20 years. And it needs that rest because it does enough work every minute to lift a 70-pound weight 1 foot off the ground. So think about that. Your heart does enough work every minute to lift a 70-pound weight 1 foot off the ground. So it's like every minute, if you decided, I've got a 70-pound weight here, and every minute I'm going to walk over, and I'm going to pick it up 1 foot off the ground, I'm going to put it down. And then the next minute I'm going to come back and I'm going to do that. That's what your heart does, right? The amount of work it does every minute. By the end of the day, your heart has done enough work to lift your body 1 mile straight in the air. Think about that. That's how much work your heart has done, okay? The mega muscle, your heart, beats about 75 times per minute in the average human. In a 100-year period, it will have faithfully beaten 4 billion times and sent 600,000 tons of blood through the body. That blood makes a complete cycle from the heart to the lungs, back to the heart, through the body, then back to the heart in about 1 minute. And yet some people expect us to believe that this efficient machine came about through random processes and blind chance. You think about, again, how amazing it is. And we think about not just the brain, but the heart. Those 2 organs that we have inside of us. And how God created those things. And again, you think about it. Some people think that when God made creation that He just kind of said, all right, I'm going to put a man over here. There he is, right? But you think about the fact and appreciate this, that when God created us, right, He had to create us so that our bodies would be self-sustaining, so that our bodies would be able to heal themselves, to tend to the needs that we have whenever we have some kind of a problem or an issue, whatever. That we would be able to eat the other things that He had created and drink the things that He's created, and that will sustain our bodies, right? You know, that just sort of happened to be. No, God made it that way, okay? That God made us to where we can reproduce, just as He talks about in Genesis chapter 1. Each thing that God created after its own kind, man reproduces as well. All of those things that you consider, and you think to yourself, man, think about all the design that went into the human body. You know, if you and I were to get together and we were to get the smartest people in the world, and we were to say, we need you to come up with some kind of living organism, and we want you to make it and design it where it's able to sustain itself for, let's say, about 80 years, right? There would probably be something we would forget. Or it would be like this, and this happens, right? There would be that testing part of it where we test it and it fails. And then we go back to the drawing board. Or we test it and it fails. And what went wrong? Oh, this over here. We forgot to put this on there. Or we forgot to add this. Or we forgot about this particular thing, right? We didn't take into consideration this. None of that with God. When God created Adam, it wasn't a test to see, well, I hope Adam lives. I hope he does all right down there. I'm going to have to keep checking on him. And no. God knew when He created Adam, I've made Adam to be this, and I know that he'll be able to sustain it. And I know if this happens, his body will be able to take care of this, and all the amazing things that go along with that, right? So I think we hear that, and hopefully we appreciate that about the human body, okay? Now here's what I want to do. And I want to do this, and this will probably take us close to the end of what we're going to do tonight. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I don't care how you do it, right? But I would like for everybody to kind of help sort of participate in this if you can. But I want to kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kind of work out, I guess. I don't know. So like if you're like in a section or something, I don't know, just try to get close to some people near you, even if you have to move a few feet one way or right or left. God made you where you can move. I don't know if you knew that. And if you need help, I got a skateboard right here, and I will loan you, and you can use it. But I'm going to give here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a body part. And again, you can use your phones, you can Google it. But I want you to come up with 5 things, if you can, 5 things that are unique about that body part that no other body part does. Right? For example, I mean, if I was to give you the brain, right, I would say, give me 5 unique things about the brain that the brain does or can do that no other part of your body can do. Right? And we've just talked about some of those things, right? How it sends the impulses, how it computes, how it takes in all that, right? So you would say, okay, here's the things. And you can use Google, by the way, if you want to use Google, and that will help you out to give me some technical stuff, right? So I just want you to kind of get with the people around you real quick. Somebody head it up, and let's just give me, and I'll give you about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I want us to kind of go back and kind of say, okay, who had this, who had that, and give me, because I think this is going to help us to appreciate what God has done, okay? So this group that's kind of over this way, maybe something like that, right? So y'all take kind of, and I'm going to give you, I say hands, but take hands and arms, right? Just kind of the whole, you get the whole thing. You can throw in shoulder if you want to. I don't care, right? Throw, hand, arm, shoulder. That's what you get, right? Okay. And then maybe kind of back over here, this section, right? Kind of back over this way. If y'all do feet and legs, right? You can kind of have all the way up to about the hip or so. I'll give you that, right? Okay. Y'all do that. All right, this kind of big. It's kind of a big section here, but I like it. If y'all want to move and get, that's fine. But y'all have the ears, and I know here you can say hearing, but I want you to look it up. And what all does the ear? What all is going on in there that's unique about the ear, right? What else does the ear do? Because there's other things, right? It has its own drum. You can do that. You all get eyes. You get the eyes, okay? What's at least 5 things unique about the eyes? What do the eyes do? And by the way, if somebody, okay, like if y'all's row says one thing and your row says one, that's fine too. However you want to do it, I'm okay with that. I don't care. So I gave them eyes. So you all get the nose. You all get the nose. And you can grab some people in this, I don't know, however you want to do it, right? The nose. And then lastly, where am I at? Oh, over here. Just kind of this big sort of, y'all get mouth or tongue. You kind of get this whole area. Mouth, tongue, whatever. What does it do? What are some things that are unique that only the mouth does that nothing else does, right, in the body? Okay? So take about 5, 10 minutes. Think about it. Brainstorm. Give me about 5 good things, and we're going to, yeah. Okay. All right. So, let's hear what you found. All right, I'm going to start over here, and whoever's in this group or whoever considers themselves in this group, you can chime in on what you found. But the hands and or arms, what did anybody find on that? We got a microphone over here. Somebody want to tell us what they found on that? Anyone? I'll turn into Bueller. Anyone? All right, Aiden.
We can kind of like hold things and control it like in a way that is more precise than any other body part. Like you can do it with other like I guess feet, but it won't be as precise as hands would be.
Okay. All right. That's one thing. All right. Very good. Who else has something on the hands or the arms or the shoulders?
On the hands, we said that fingerprints, that they're
okay.
identifying and unique. Also, hands have fingernails that can like scratch and itch, or you can find other places that you need to touch on your. So.
Okay. The fingerprints is a good one because, again, that goes back to design. And you think about even identifying people today. How one of the key ways that we identify people that are unknown, or even, when you talk about crimes and all that kind of stuff, is our fingerprints. And everybody's fingerprint is unique, right? So that in and of itself right there is a pretty amazing thing that God has done, that you're going to tell me that years of evolution did that? I don't know about that. I don't know. Does anybody else have something on the hands, the arms, the shoulders? I don't know. Any of that? Got one right here. Okay.
Usually when meeting new people, that's the only body part we offer as a gesture
Okay.
of respect.
All right, you're right. Yeah. So in greetings, or even in terms of fellowship, agreement, what you talk about, a contract or whatever, anything like that. You're right. That's the one thing that we offer. We offer that hand. We offer that handshake, right? And that's a very good one, right? It's very clever. Okay. All right, good stuff. So we'll move on. So feet and legs. I know this little group back here has got feet. So tell me about the feet, legs, toes, any of that stuff, right? Ankles, any of that stuff's in on that.
All right, first, your feet take you where you want to go. Some of us faster than others.
Okay.
But they're also at the base of the skeleton and bear all of our weight.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Next thing is a quarter of your body's bones are in your feet.
Wow.
And that's 52 bones total.
Wow.
And I didn't make it up. Jenny told me. Also, you need all 5 toes to balance.
Yeah.
That's also true for some and not of others. The arches in your feet are shock absorbers. They absorb all the body's weight. And in some cases, a toe can be used to replace a thumb in a surgical procedure.
Wow. All right.
That's pretty good, guys.
Not so good in hitchhiking.
And then finally, the femur, which is the thigh bone, is the strongest bone in the body, and it's actually stronger than concrete.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. See, again, that's why we're doing this, right? Those are things that we don't necessarily think about, we don't maybe necessarily appreciate, but it's true about the human body that's unique about that. All right, so this group here had ears, right? He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Tell me about the ears.
All right.
Darren has nice ears, by the way.
I was told I have criminal ears because I don't have earlobes. So so a lot of interesting things about the ear that we found out is, of course, they're used for balance. We have that little circular thing in it with a villi.
Right.
And they're used for sound, and not only sound but directional sound. And if you notice, different ear construction can pick up different tones, different sounds. Certain people can hear different tones different than other people's because of the sound. The makeup of your ear. It also houses the smallest bones in your body, which are the anvil, the stirrup, and the hammer.
Nice.
Those are the common names for them. Someone said it
I'm
aids
used to the technical names, but go ahead.
Someone said it aids it'll aid in taste, and I didn't get that one. I don't know if people taste their earwax or not, but that's what it is.
All right, next.
So as the fingers, the ear also, and I didn't really think about this, is very unique to every person. You can be identified by your ear design.
Wow. That's very cool. Didn't know that either. All right. So I'm going to start, if somebody robs a store, I'm going to start looking at their ear immediately. What do they look like? I don't know if their ears were.
And it says they're self-cleaning. I didn't know. It says, something says they're self-cleaning.
I thought that was what Q-tips were for.
So, and we came up to the conclusion that as a child, your ear is not fully formed because it filters out all the parents' noise. So you can't hear what the parents say, which makes perfect sense.
He's not lying. And that works on husbands too.
And I think we came up with that. Really, God created the ears for for the purpose of holding your glasses, because He knew your eyes were going to go bad. So He had to have something to hold the glasses. So He said, "Well, we'll create the ear and to hold glasses or pencils."
Even no ears and just the nose. It's not gonna. It's gonna. It's a slope. It's gonna go down.
Our part's only the ear. The nose people will chime in.
Take credit for that one.
So yeah, there you go.
All right, excellent. And that was good. All right. I got the eyes next, don't I? Did I give you all the eyes? Is that what y'all got? The eyes? Tell us about the eyes. Oh, aviation master.
Mine aren't so good. The ability to perceive 10 million colors and distinguish 500 shades of gray.
Of gray?
Gray.
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 That's gray.
Yeah.
That's just gray. Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, very nice. Who else has got something?
It has the ability to distinguish fear and joy before you know it. Like when you see something, you react to that before you even verbalize it or whatever. It's that simultaneous. Your feeling and the feeling of fear and joy are there before.
Okay, so your eyes taking that in and kind of telling your brain right away, you know, what way to go with that. Okay, all right.
The muscles that move your eyes are the fastest and strongest muscles in your body.
Really? Wow. Now that's pretty. I wouldn't have thought that. You know. Okay.
There are over 1 million nerves connecting each eye to the brain.
1 million. Wow.
Over.
Wow.
And we've got 6.
Yeah.
Like the hand, and now we know the ear. Each person's eyes are unique. They're like fingerprints. No two are alike. And there's also 2 million working parts in each eye.
Wow. Wow. And again, you know, you think about that just happened. Like, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. What? So Ryan, you got one? He's coming with you with the microphone.
It's amazing how when your eyes are dry, it waters.
Yeah.
By itself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've never cried, but I've heard that sometimes when people cry. All right. All right. Very interesting stuff. All right. So we got the nose as we move kind of this way. All right. Tell us what y'all find out about the nose.
All right. We have point 1. Let's see. That the nose humidifies, filters the air as it comes through to your body to take in the oxygen. That it actually warms the air through internal turbinates, keep the homeostasis, I guess, going for it, going to your brain, everything. Here's a fun fact that you cannot perfectly hum without a nose. I want you to all try it right now.
Oh yeah.
I promise.
Okay.
You can only make some odd noises, but you cannot do it perfectly hum. There are cilia in your nose that protect against microbes as part of the immune system, and fun fact that it grows downwards. So
okay.
I don't know.
It's gravity. I don't know. Yeah.
That's all we have for.
Yeah. Okay. And that's in some of this stuff you think, oh man, is this like useless knowledge that you're going to bust out at a party with your friends like, hey, did you know? All right. Yes, sir.
I was going to say that also your nose is also connected to your ears and mouth.
Yeah. And we don't sometimes appreciate that, how the interconnectivity and how we kind of use those senses together. And I'll say this too, I've always heard this, but I've heard that whenever someone loses one of the senses that the others sort of step up, I guess, so to speak. So for example, if someone loses their sight, their sense of smell, their sense of, all that kind of amplifies, And you think about, again, how, one sort of helps to fill in for the other, and it's, thinks about how great and unique God made us to where your body sort of compensates in that way. So yeah, I mean, that's, all that stuff right there is pretty amazing stuff. Again, we just think nose, I smell, whatever, but again, you think about some of this unique stuff that deals with the nose and how it works. And then my large group over here. So I got mouth and tongue. Tell me about the mouth and or the tongue. Just, teeth too. You can throw in teeth too. I don't care. Tonsils, whatever. That's whatever's connected. Sure, yeah. Whoever has a hand and wants to tell us something. All right.
The tongue is the only muscle that doesn't rely on the skeletal system to function.
Okay, didn't know that, but yeah, makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. The only muscle that doesn't rely on the skeletal system. How about that? Okay. All right, what else we got? Down here to TJ.
All right, so first with the musculature of the tongue, it is the only muscle that is connected only by one end. So,
okay. True. Like it, yeah.
It only comes out, right?
Only connected by one end, all right. Yeah.
It can make a variety of different sounds, which we will demonstrate. No, we're not going to demonstrate. So,
Please do.
it is the most flexible muscle, and the tongue is made up of 8 of them, 8 different muscles.
Okay.
It is the only part of our body that can taste. So, I mean, in terms of God's creation, you think about the enjoyment that He wanted us to have on this earth. So, there could be that thought process there of the enjoyment that we can have in good food, right? Everybody knows
that's why
how
God
good food
created
is.
Twinkies.
Yeah, exactly. It initiates digestion. It is the only part of our body, I guess is the mouth, that can communicate with verbal language. Each taste bud has 51 to 100 receptors, so a lot of tasting going on. And then the enamel on our teeth, according to the internet, is the strongest part of our body.
Wow. Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah. And you think about, too, how your tongue, and you don't really think about it when you're eating, but it kind of pushes food around in your mouth and just sort of, controls everything. Like, I got this. All right, this is going to go over here. So anybody else with the mouth? Oh, yes, we got Miss Kim back here has got something. Miss Kim Boucher back there.
Well, the first thing that people notice about you is your smile. And smiling helps you live longer. Every time you smile, your body produces greater amounts of antibodies, giving you an immunity boost.
Wow. Okay. There's something else cool about the mouth as well. Yeah. Think about the smile. Okay. Excellent. Well, hey, that's all of our time. What do you know? Pete's in the back, so that means it's time. So I think I'm supposed to. So we're going to close with a prayer, and then I think I'm supposed to release you to the snack bar. What I call it. Yeah, the fellowship hall. I think there's like cookies and such and stuff in there. So, so speaking of your senses and such, you're about to go get some good stuff. So, hey, thanks for your. I hope that again, I said by the end of this, hopefully you would appreciate more the human body and just how amazing it is. And I think some of these things have helped us to kind of appreciate that. So let's close out in prayer, and then you're going to be dismissed over to the fellowship hall. Let's pray. Our God and Father, we thank you for yet another day of life and for this day that we're able to come together and to worship you, Father, and to study from your word and learn more about you. And Father, to tonight appreciate so much your creation. But Father, even specifically as you've created us as humans, Father, and just how amazingly you have made us. And Father, we don't always appreciate all the different things about this human body that you have made and created, Father, that is so unique and that allows us to be able to live and move and breathe and interact and enjoy life and to do all the things that we do, Father. And so, Father, while we may not always take these things and appreciate them as we should, Father, we know that you made us, and we know that in your wisdom, Father, we know that you have done what is good and what is right. And we pray, Father, that you'd help us to be more conscientious of these things and be thankful to you for what you've done for us. Father, help us to use these bodies that you've given us in service to you each day. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.